I did not sleep on the plane, not even for 1 minute. I just sat in my seat and looked out the window at the dark sky. I kept thinking about what I would say when I landed. I kept practicing the words in my head. Simple words, small sentences. But when I tried to say them out loud, nothing came out. My mouth stayed closed. My heart was beating very fast. When the plane landed at Heathrow Airport in London, I felt something strange in my chest. It was not excitement, it was fear. Everything around me was moving fast. People were walking quickly. They were talking in English. The signs were in English. Everything was in English. And I was just standing there, holding my small bag, not knowing where to go. My name is Maya. I am 34 years old. I am a nurse from Accra, Ghana. I have worked as a nurse for 9 years. I have helped hundreds of people. I have stayed calm in emergencies. I have held the hands of scared patients and told them everything would be okay. But that night, in that big airport in London, I was the scared one, and there was no one to hold my hand.
I had worked very hard to get this opportunity. My hospital in Accra had chosen me for a special medical training program in London. It was a 2-week program for nurses from different countries. We would learn new techniques. We would meet other medical professionals. It was a big honor. When my manager told me I was selected, I felt so proud. I went home and I cried happy tears. But then the preparation began. I had to apply for a visa. I had to fill out many forms. All of them were in English. I had studied English in school. I could read it well. I could write it. But speaking felt dangerous. What if I said something wrong? What if people did not understand me? What if I looked stupid? I practiced at home every evening. I would stand in front of my mirror and say simple sentences. My daughter would sit on the bed and listen. She was 8 years old. Sometimes she would laugh when I made a mistake, but she always clapped for me after. She said I was the bravest person she knew. I smiled when she said that, but I did not feel brave. The night before my flight, I could not eat dinner. My stomach was too tight. I packed my bag 3 times. I checked my documents again and again. My passport, my visa, my invitation letter, my ticket. Everything was there. Everything was ready. But I was not ready. Not inside. Not where it really matters.
At the airport, I followed the signs. I walked through the long hallways. I collected my bag. Then I came to the part where I had to take the train to my hotel. I had read about this online, the Heathrow Express. It would take me to Paddington Station. From there, I had to take the Underground, the London Metro, to my hotel. I stood in front of the ticket machine. It was big and had many buttons. I looked at it for a long time. I tried to read everything on the screen, but I was tired and my eyes were not working well. I pressed a few buttons. The machine showed me a price. I put in my card. Nothing happened. I tried again. Still nothing. People walked past me. One man looked at me and then looked away quickly. A woman with a suitcase waited behind me. I could feel her waiting. I pressed more buttons. The screen went back to the beginning. I had to start again. My face felt hot. My hands were shaking a little. I thought about just sitting down on the floor and waiting until morning. I thought about calling my manager back in Accra and telling him I could not do this. But then I thought about my daughter. I thought about what she said.
the bravest person she knew. I could not sit on the floor. Not tonight.
I took a slow breath. I turned around. The woman with the suitcase was still standing there. She looked a little impatient, but not unkind. I opened my mouth. The words felt heavy. They felt stuck somewhere in my throat, but I pushed them out. I said I was sorry. I said I needed help. I said I wanted a ticket to Paddington Station, but I could not understand the machine. That was it. That was all I said. 9 words, maybe 10, but saying them felt like climbing a mountain. The woman looked at me for one moment, then her face changed. It became soft. She said, "Of course." She stepped forward and stood next to me. She pointed at the screen. She showed me which button to press first. She explained each step slowly. She spoke clearly. She did not rush. When the ticket came out, she smiled at me and said, "There you go." I said, "Thank you." She nodded and went back to her own ticket machine. That was it. The whole thing took maybe 2 minutes, but for me, it felt like a very long and very important 2 minutes. I had done something scary. I had spoken English to a stranger, and she had helped me, just like that.
I got on the Heathrow Express. It was a clean and fast train. The seats were soft. The lights were warm. I sat down by the window and held my ticket in both hands. Outside the window, London was dark and full of lights. I could see tall buildings and roads and bridges. Everything looked different from home. The sky was the same color, dark blue and purple, but everything below it was different. I felt something shift inside me. I was still scared, but something else was there too. Something small and new. I had spoken. I had asked for help, and the sky had not fallen. The woman had not laughed. She had simply helped me. That was all. The train was quiet. A few other passengers sat nearby. One man was reading a book. A young woman was sleeping with her head against the window. 2 children sat across from me with their father. They were eating crisps and whispering to each other. The sound of the train was steady and low. It was almost peaceful. I looked out the window and thought about my hospital back in Accra. I thought about my patients. I thought about the young boy I had helped last month. He had come in very sick and very scared. I had sat next to him and told him he was not alone. I had held his hand. I had stayed calm for him, because that is what nurses do. We stay calm for other people. We find courage for other people. Maybe tonight I needed to find it for myself.
At Paddington Station, everything was louder and bigger. There were hundreds of people. The sound was everywhere. Voices, announcements, the rumble of trains. I stood at the exit of the Heathrow Express and looked around. I needed to find the underground, the metro. I could see signs, but there were so many of them. They pointed in different directions. I did not know which way to go. I started walking. I followed a sign that said underground, but then the sign stopped. I was in a big, open area with shops and food places. I looked around, but I could not see another sign. I walked a little further. Still nothing. I turned around. I walked back. I was going in circles. My feet were tired. My bag was heavy on my shoulder. My phone battery was at 11%. I had not eaten anything since the plane meal, which I had only half finished. I was hungry and tired and a little lost. This is the part where I felt like crying.
Not a sad cry, more like a tired cry, the kind that comes when you have been strong for too long. I stopped walking, I stood still, I looked around one more time, and then I saw a man in a yellow jacket. He was standing near a pillar. He had a badge on his chest. He worked at the station. I knew what I had to do. It was the same as the ticket machine, the same mountain, the same 10 words. I walked over to him. I asked him where the underground was. He pointed to the left and told me to follow the blue signs. I found the underground. I bought my ticket. I got on the right train. I sat down and checked my phone for the map. 3 more stops. I counted them in my head. 3 more stops and I would be at my hotel. At the second stop, an older woman got on and sat next to me. She was carrying many bags. She looked tired. She looked at me and smiled. I smiled back. Then she said something I did not expect. She said I had a beautiful scarf. She was talking about the kente scarf I had around my neck. It was a gift from my mother. Orange and gold and green. I wore it every time I traveled. I said thank you. I told her it was from Ghana. She said she had always wanted to visit Ghana. She said she had a friend who went there years ago and said it was the most beautiful place. She said the people were so warm and welcoming. We talked for the rest of the journey. 2 stops, maybe 4 minutes. We talked about Ghana and London and nursing and the cold weather. Her English was easy to understand. My English felt okay. Not perfect, but okay. When I got off at my stop, she waved at me from the window. I waved back. I did not expect that. I did not expect to make a small friend on the London Underground at midnight, but I did.
I found my hotel. It was a small, clean building on a quiet street. The lights outside were warm and yellow. I pushed open the door and walked to the front desk. A young man looked up at me. He asked for my name and my booking reference. I gave him both. He typed something into his computer. He handed me a key card. Then he said something that surprised me. He said he hoped I had a good journey. He asked where I had come from. I told him Ghana. He smiled and said that was far. He said London could feel very big and very cold at first, but that it got easier. I looked at him. I did not know what to say, so I just said yes. I said it does get easier. I said I was already feeling that tonight. He nodded. He told me my room was on the 3rd floor. He told me breakfast started at 7. He told me there was a small kettle in the room if I wanted tea. I thanked him and took the key. I walked to the lift. I pressed the button for the 3rd floor. I looked at myself in the mirror on the wall of the lift. I was tired. My eyes were red. My scarf was a little crooked, but I was here. I had made it. I was standing in a hotel in London. I sat on the bed in my room. The room was small and quiet. I put my bag on the floor. I took off my shoes. I looked at the ceiling. Outside the window, I could hear the faint sound of the city, a car, a distant siren, the wind, London sounds. I thought about the whole night, the ticket machine, the woman who helped me, the man in the yellow jacket, the woman on the underground with all the bags, the boy at the front desk. 5 people. I had spoken English to 5 different people in one night, and every single one of them had been kind to me. I picked up my phone and called my daughter back home. It was late, but I knew she would be awake. She always waited for my calls. When she answered, I said, "I made it." She screamed a happy scream. She asked me 100 questions. I answered all of them. I told her about the scarf lady on the metro. She laughed and said, "That was very you, Mama." When I put the phone down, I was smiling. The fear was still there. Tomorrow was a big day. The training started at 9, but the fear was smaller now. I had spoken. I had been heard. I had been helped. And I had helped myself. I turned off the light. For the first time that whole night, I closed my eyes, and I slept.
And that is where Maya's story ends. Not at the airport, not at the ticket machine, but in a quiet room in London, finally at rest. She came to a new city afraid of her own voice, and she left that night knowing her voice was enough. If this story helped you practice your English today, please give it a like. It really helps English Catalyst grow. And if you want more stories like this, real, simple, human stories, subscribe to English Catalyst so you never miss one. Remember, you do not need perfect English to be understood. You just need to speak.